You've got a lot to communicate, and if you can just get people to pay attention, you'll delight your customers and sell more wine. But people ignore emails and screen calls. Everyone does read their text messages, but alcohol regulations make compliance a bear. Use RedChirp to cut through the noise. Convert website traffic into reservations and sales with web-to-text chat. Reliably reach members about customizing club orders, declined cards, and delinquent pickups. Exceed your sales goals with customized promotions that make everyone feel like a VIP. Securely collect credit card info 6 times faster. Reduce returns and no-shows with completely automated shipment notifications and reservation reminders, while order attribution automatically connects text to sales so you know what's working. RedChirp is trusted by wineries of all sizes and integrates with your other tools. Get more leads, make more sales, and build stronger relationships with RedChirp.
Everyone have their seatbelt fastened, tray tables up, ready for takeoff? I feel like that was just like the precursor as when you're getting on a flight and they do the whole video for you. But that was much more interesting. We haven't seen it a gazillion times. So when you're thinking about raising the revenue in your tasting room, there's only 3 ways you can really do that. It's traffic, it's conversion rates, and it's average order value. Those are the things we can do to increase our revenue for in the tasting room. But what happens when traffic's down, right? Because guess what? It's been down and trends are looking like it's going to stay the same. One way is obviously conversion rates. So when the people are coming in, let's make sure they're actually buying wine and joining. One way is average order size. So when they're buying more. So there's lots of programs around that. But beyond that, we're going to really dive into some other ways outside of that to really think about different ways that we can increase our overall DTC revenue without worrying about traffic as much as we have been before. So a couple of stats from Commerce7. They pulled information off of their platform, and they looked at what it looked like for people who were capturing contact data. We all know that if we're going to grow our business, that's the only way that we can do it outside of the tasting room, but a lot of that is when they come into the tasting room, we need to be collecting contact data from every single person. Not just the person that made the reservation, but everyone, right? That's the goal. They showed that of the top 10 performers, those people those wineries were doing 70% data capture. The bottom 10% were only doing 3.3%. When we look at our mystery shopping results across 6,000 shops, we're seeing on average, post-COVID, the staff is actually asking for contact data about, is at 18%. Pre-COVID, it was 35. So as an industry, we suck. We suck even more, even though we know how important it is because of COVID. But a lot of it had to do with, they're making a reservation, we're collecting contact data, but we're only doing it for one. Commerce7 also says that those numbers, that percentages, equates to 78 cents for that the 70% that is actually capturing contact data, 78% sold online for every $1 sold in the tasting room. So for every $1 sold in the tasting room, if you're collecting contact data, that's 78 cents on top of that. So the impact for that is you've got a 24% chance of customers buying online in the future if you're collecting contact data, and about 17% chance of a wine club sign up in the future. So I'm just dropping that seed that collecting contact data for all of our other programs, the way that we can really generate outside of the tasting room is going to come down to that. My name is Jen Warrington. I'm the glue at WISE. WISE stands for Wine Industry Sales Education. We've been in the industry about 15 years, and our whole purpose is to help wineries and the individuals in the wine industry succeed. But enough about me. I would love to introduce my experts here. I will go from right to left. So John, if you could introduce yourself, who you are, what you work for, what you do, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Jen. Thank you all for being here. Pretty full room. I'm obviously John. I'm the founder of CommunityBenchmark. What we love to do is to talk about how the trends are affecting your winery, what they mean, and what are going to be the focus metrics that are going to drive the growth for your direct-to-consumer sales. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to talking about the trends and more specifically what they could mean for your specific winery.
All right, Walter, you're up.
Hello, my name is Walter Carter, Director of Hospitality for Danza Winery and Masia de la Vinya. We're located in Temecula, California, and I'm really excited to be here. Hope you guys have fun. Be nice to us. Just be nice.
Thanks. Haley.
Hi everyone, my name is Haley Rose. I'm the Director of DTC Sales at Peju Winery. For us, that does not mean front of house, so I don't oversee tasting room or hospitality, although I partner with them greatly. I do oversee wine club, e-commerce, and inbound and outbound phones, which I'm excited to speak to you about later. Peju is a family-owned and operated winery in Rutherford, if you are not familiar, and we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year.
Great, thanks. All right, John, to put things into perspective, what can you tell us about what trends you're seeing with CommunityBenchmark? What are you seeing the last few years? What are wine regions gaining ground or losing ground? Tell us what's going on out there.
Well, I'm so glad you asked, Jen. So we collect, so we have a product that plugs into your point of sale and shows you your comparative trends, strengths and weaknesses, growth opportunities. And we do this for over 500 wineries up and down the West Coast, so down to Temecula and all the way up into Woodinville and Walla Walla throughout the state of Oregon. So those are the trends we're going to be looking at here, and you may be surprised that in a session about how to grow without traffic, that the first slide shows a decrease in traffic. So, yes, this has become a fact of life. One of the things that comes up for me, so if you look at Oregon in the first quarter of this year saw 1/2 of the traffic that it did in the first quarter of 2019. However, this brings up the first, something that Jen intimated. In Willamette Valley, tasting room sales are the same this quarter as they were that same quarter with double the traffic, whatever that is, 4 years ago. So the first topic, or a topic, is how can we do more, how are we doing more with the traffic that is joining us? And to Jen's point, that goes beyond the tasting room as well. So that I found pretty interesting. And actually, one more thing. So I'm stoked to have Walter from Temecula and Haley from Napa here, because when we first started working, we've been working in Napa for a while, but when we first started working in Temecula, I was blown away at how successful those businesses are down there in a completely opposite way, let's say, than Napa. Okay, so the average Temecula winery sees, I want to say, about 5 times the traffic, actually, as the average Napa winery. Drawing on, LA, San Diego, have a huge, like $20 million population base down there. And the average spend in their tasting room is also about 1/5. Same amount of business, just completely different way. One is a lot more traffic with less spend per, and one is a lot less traffic with a lot more. So I'm just going to plant that seed because it might provoke some interesting conversation. I found it fascinating as a comparison point of the regions. So the next part about the traffic that I found interesting is that, when you think about visitors, your tasting room, obviously you have new visitors and you have club visitors. When we look across all the wineries up and down the West Coast and we divide traffic like so, we find that it's really the new visitor that is driving the downward turn. Yes, club members are visiting us a little bit less, but there's certainly, if you look at that, the dark green part of the column, that's the club visitor percentage. That's the one that's holding steadier than the new visitor. So there is an aspect of how do we get a new visitor to the tasting room, and those are the ones that are driving the downturn in traffic. So that's, I think, what I'm going to say about traffic for the time being. And I guess I would just say, back to my Willamette point, half the traffic, same sales. There's an aspect of this that is, to my mind and conversation, clearly intentional. And so, you know, I think the question is where to go from here, and I think we'll have some conversation about that. So moving on from traffic and talking about the overall picture, this is Q1 total direct-to-consumer sales. And what you can see, compared to 2019, we are well above where we were in 2019. This is commensurate with the stock market rise over the same time period, was right in that kind of 30 to 40% range. So just big picture, taking a step back, hey, our sales are, you know, anywhere from 26 to 46% better this quarter than they were the same quarter in 2019. However, I don't know if we have any A students in the front row here, but you might notice something interesting about the dark green column to the far right. That represents this quarter versus last quarter, right? So that's where, compared to last year, that's where it's a slowdown, right? So even though we're 30, 40% of where we were in 2019 pre-pandemic, clearly this year has brought some different headwinds that have made the entire West Coast overall consumer sales in wine drop about 8% compared to same quarter last year. And when we break that down by channel, so clearly you can see that the regularly scheduled club shipments, the club allocations, those are the biggest percentage of our sales. The average winery does about 60% of their D2C business through the regularly scheduled club allocations and club shipments, and we're seeing that here. That's the channel that's grown for us the most, and that's the channel that's holding the strongest. You can see, if you look over on the table on the right, we've grown the amount that we're shipping to club members 40% over the time period, which has stayed flat this year, as opposed to obviously tasting room, phone, online going down. And I will also point out that events section, although it's small, let's say 10%, not even, it's obviously the winner in terms of growth. And I will say this brings up another seed of an idea that I think we've heard from plenty of folks by now, which is, how do we take the tasting room show on the road? You know, a lot of this is I mean, sure, on-site events are back, but we have noticed several wineries having a lot of success taking their show on the road and visiting, and you guys can talk more about how that works maybe, but that's something that I noticed when we break it down by channel. Now, when we break the spend per order down by channel, so we call that AOV, or average order value, you can find a commensurate growth in all of those spends as well. Every channel, and this obviously is partially reflective of price increases, but it's also volume. And when I look at this, you know, I think it's super interesting that we haven't grown our online sale AOV, but look at phone. And so back to my original point of, well, what does this data mean for you? What can you do about it? And I sort of feel like to me, it shows the effectiveness of talking with people on the phone, that connection that you can have with club members. And I think a lot of us during the pandemic realized when our club members couldn't come visit us, the only way to reach them was to call them, and we're very surprised at how willing they were to buy. So to me, what I take from this is let's not discount how valuable it can be to engage with our audiences on the phone. That's maybe another way to take the show on the road. So now this is, I'm going to combine slides here. Hopefully you guys can follow me. But so you can see that, so first quarter of this year, the average spend in the tasting rooms has gone up a little bit, as has the average club shipment. We can see that in those 4 and 5% right there on the table. So if that's true, let's say with the club shipment, and again, we remember that club shipments are the largest percentage of our, if that's true, if the AOV, or the revenue per shipment, you might call it, has increased, why are overall club revenues not also increasing? Now, I did a little trick here. What we're looking at is total club revenues now. So this is every dollar achieved from your club member, regardless of whether it was a regularly scheduled shipment or tasting room or phone call, etc. But my point is, if you look down to, when you think of total club dollars, you can break it down. It's number of members times revenue per member. That gives you your total club dollars. So if you're thinking about, well, what to do about it, it's like, okay, well, and this is where we could scan all your metrics and get a sense of, is your winery having more of an issue with the growth of your membership or in your value per? And getting back to the previous slide, we saw that the AOV for club has been increasing. But in this slide, we're seeing that the revenue per member is decreasing. So, and I would tell you some of this is hidden from, so I'm just gonna answer my own question here. But with regard to the revenue per member slide, despite the average shipment increasing in value, I can tell you that is partially a result of club members engaging with us a little bit less. We saw the less visitation to the tasting room and other things. But also part of it is in the frequency of shipping. And to translate that, I would say we may have more members that are on more holds or more declining their credit cards, quiet quitting, whatever you want to call it. But this, I guess what I would say is that this potentially is another seed to be planted. Okay, in an era of declining visitation, if we take care of our list and engage them to minimize those holds, and that's what what I'm saying is that the data is showing that's a cross-industry issue so far this year. And then to move on to the other aspect of overall club growth, which is just how many members do I have? Is that growing? That we all probably know that's a function of, are we acquiring members faster than we are losing members? That's the math of whether the club's growing or not. And it helps from a managerial standpoint to get a sense of, okay, do we need to focus on retaining our existing members, or do we need to focus on acquiring new ones? I will show you that so the simple takeaway from this potentially overcomplicated slide is that attrition is increasing and acquisition is decreasing. And I guess what you can see there, if you look at where that black line is over on attrition, that essentially tells you that across up and down the West Coast, on average, a club has lost a shade over 8% of its members in the first quarter. If you had 1,000 club members, you would have lost 80 through the first quarter of this year, compared to in 2019 when we lost, I think that's closer to maybe 70. So attrition is ticking up a touch a percentage or two there. And of course, you can see the trend line over on the right with the acquisition. And I guess I would tie this back into that new visitor decline that we saw. These are the folks that tend to become new club members for us. And so if we have less new visitors visiting us, obviously we have less opportunity to acquire new members. So with that being said, I'm not sure how far I'm doing on time, but I wrap it up. Thank you. All right. So the last slide I would show here is just showing what I've been talking about with regard to the club members and the split on their sales. So you can see that the shipments are sort of staying flat, and that's the big 80%. So when you think about your club, you know, am I getting let's call it 20 cents on the dollar for every dollar that I'm shipping to my club? Am I achieving at least 20 cents in engagement beyond? That would be the benchmark that's implied here, and I would say that that number that we're engaging club beyond the shipment, which is to their point and what they're going to talk about, that's the part that's also on the decline. So hopefully that lays a few seeds for us to talk about what we can do given the environment that we have to grow our sales in an era of declining traffic. Thank you.
Before you go, John, there's some questions that are coming in. So looking at Q1 2022 versus Q1 2023, are we looking at the weather for both years, assuming tasting room traffic is down with the weather being worse? Well, yeah, but at the end of the day, if traffic's down, the whole point is how are we increasing revenue without traffic? So yeah, it's going to be different if it's rainier one quarter to the next. But the question to you, John, is this. What are the number of wineries overall on the platform, and can you kind of break it out a little bit by state, if you will?
Sure. So as I mentioned, 522 wineries on the platform currently. I would say probably a couple hundred in California and a little over 100 in Washington and Oregon. I don't know, I hope that answers the question. But.
Okay. Great. There's a ton of questions, and hopefully we'll answer some of them as we go, and then we'll get back to some of the other ones either offline or at the end here. So I wanted to just turn it over a little bit to Haley and Walter. Are you seeing similar trends with your own data, knowing that you're on CommunityBenchmark as well, but just commenting on overall, is this similar for you specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say a lot of what John just talked about is very similar to what we're seeing as far as our personal trends. Speaking of the weather, we actually just had a company meeting last week, and one of the stats that our company president shared was in Q1 of 2022, there was only 11 days of rain. And in Q1 of 2023 in Napa, there were 44 days of rain. So while that's not a singular reason for all of these trends, it is definitely something that we're keeping an eye on and why we need to look at these other channels to help offset that.
Nicely said. Yeah. So Haley, staying with you, what are some things that you're doing to help increase your revenue from a DTC overall aspect? Specifically, you were talking about some great things that you're doing with loyalty and retention of club members.
Sure. So we know that when we are seeing a decline in visitation to the tasting room, that's going to directly correlate with a decrease in new member signups. So an area we quickly realized we needed to focus on this year was club member retention to reduce that attrition rate. So the first area that we identified is what is that onboarding experience like and how could we do that better? Because sure, we can send them an automated email when they sign up with here's all your club information, and then maybe they don't hear from us until their first shipment. So we really identified that as an area that we wanted to improve. So every single member that now signs up, whether they're in the tasting room or they're online, they are getting assigned a personal contact at the winery. And that personal contact reaches out to them, welcomes them to the club via phone, also via email if the person does not pick up. But they welcome them. They make sure that Did we put you in the right club? Did you mean to sign up for 12 bottles? Oh no, you only meant to sign up for 4. Let's fix that before you get billed for your first shipment. Did you know you can customize all your shipments? And here's when you can expect to hear from us, because if we lay that foundation right up front, there's no surprises. And then that clerk is also responsible for reaching out when that first shipment work is happening. So we have a 2-week period before we bill where we're contacting. You have to call all of your new members and make sure that they know they have an email in their inbox. Did you see it? Do you want to make any changes to your club before they get hit with that first bill? Because the worst thing that can happen is they get billed and they had no idea something was coming. That experience, you can't recover from that. So we want to try to prevent that, because we know if they have a bad first experience, they're likely going to quit, if not immediately, within that first year of membership. But then on top of that, they also have to call them after the shipment arrived. How did the wine arrive? Were the bottles dusty? That's something that's really important to us. We don't want them pulling out dusty bottles. Did the driver deliver the wine safely? Maybe we discover that Walter likes carrier A better than carrier B. Well, let's switch you over to carrier A so that you have a great experience, because we want to make sure from sign up through their first year of membership, we know if we can get them through that, then we are likely to have them for many more years. So onboarding is an area we really honed in on this year. The second was looking at our key drop-off milestones, and that's going to be different for everybody. But we pulled the data and we looked at where we were losing members, and we're reaching out to them before that. We are adding benefit enhancements before they hit those milestones. We're calling them. How are we doing? We're getting our family members involved at the winery, our leadership team, to reach out to them and just say, thanks for being members. Is there anything we could do better for you? So we don't lose them at those drop-offs, and we are being proactive rather than reactive once they've already quit.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we know that club members spend exponentially more than the average person. So if we can really lean into that and make sure we're taking great care of them, then we're going to, by nature, raise our revenue overall. I think, Walter, you have a very unique proposition that you're doing there. Specifically, tell us about your events.
One of the things that we've noticed since reopening, since the pandemic, is people are really engaged. People that are already fans of our winery are really excited about coming out. And so what we've done is number one, we sent out a focus, questionnaire, survey, and really wanted to get some feedback on what was important to them. What kind of events do you want to see? We got some really good feedback from that. We even encouraged them to fill out the survey by giving them a little discount on some bottles if they filled it out. And we found that really helped. Once we got that feedback, we were able to direct our events to things that they wanted to see, especially the locals, right? So like was mentioned, we're an hour south of LA, an hour north of San Diego. So we get a lot of foot traffic, and people come for all different reasons, and we were able to really find some really cool events that wine club members could come to. They could bring their friends and family to and show off their winery, and they really felt really good about it. And we were able to put some really cool things together. So some are small. Some are 25, 35 people. Some go a little bit bigger, 150, 175. Some are themed. Some are free. Some we charge a little bit more for. We've just tried to kind of find different ways to meet them where they are and let them come experience the winery and show it off in ways that they really feel very proud to do. And it's been successful.
Show us the money. So with your events, can you sort of comment on how this is overall affecting your DTC revenue? Like, are you seeing great success in your events so that you're leaning more into it? And what does that look like in terms of the overall DCC?
I think in terms of retention, it helps because wine club members who, when they get a chance to visit, they're excited, they're re-engaged, they're reignited to be a part of the wine club, and they get to show it off. So and then being able to offer a discount ticket to their friends or family, it then gives us an opportunity to take what we were talking about earlier about not seeing as many people come to the winery. We're able to take those newbies and show them, hey, look at this really cool thing. And we're able to try to, pitch them and sign them up, or at least get that data, capture the data, so we can send them some emails and put them on our blast list and things like that. So overall, yes, the floodgates aren't opening, through the events, but through small drops and small drops in the bucket, we're able to see over time that doing these events, it does generate revenue.
Great. And then on that, you were also mentioning with your club members to invite them or to get them interested in coming back, you were offering different kinds of experiences. Can you?
So one of the things when we did our survey, our feedback, we noticed that some wine club members want to feel special, right? Don't they all? So what we were able to do was find, through tours, we love kind of what you talked about, the new member tour. I think that's something that's been really key for us. So not necessarily calling each and every one of them, but offering them a chance to come out and get acclimated to the grounds. They might have been drinking a little bit when they signed up. So having them come out and see the grounds and go out into the vineyard and get a chance to talk to the winemaker if he's available, or talk to one of our leaders in the tasting room or management, somebody just to connect with. It's proven to be really, really a good event. Just that, turning that into an event itself it's been really monumental for us. So, yes. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that's great. I feel like this burning need for
Yeah,
someone to say something.
I saw.
Go ahead, John.
You may have covered this, but you had mentioned newbies and getting folks to these events. Did you talk about how you find these people and how you get in touch with them and promote these events?
I didn't talk about it, but I can. Between our members that past, present, members that have once been members, they've been on hold, we still retain their information. We're able to reach back out. Haven't seen you in a while. You talked about the drop-off. They do a really good job. Our management team and leadership do a really good job of finding out where that point of drop-off usually is. So being able to get them either right as or being proactive, or even after, once they've put on hold, we're able to send out something to them and invite them out even for a complimentary tasting or a complimentary experience, and then allowing them to bring a couple people with them. That seems to engage them and bring people out, and we're able to kind of do it from there. But the events really does seem to do it. Getting people there, offering an event, you don't have to be a member to come, just anybody off the street can just come. That helps too, because now they're like, oh, we've always wanted to go, let's go see what it's about. And then suddenly they're like, oh, we could be you can be come on in.
Love it. So one way to increase overall DTC revenue is lean into your club members. Find ways to reward them, keep them longer, retention, loyalty programs, proactively reaching out. That's one great way, and many, many ways within that to really think about getting more from the people that are loyal to you. I wanted to sort of switch gears here a little bit and talk about e-commerce. So Haley, you had done a lot with growing or trying to grow or at least maintain that level since, can you give us some insights there?
Sure, absolutely. So I think a lot of us saw when the pandemic hit and we could not have visitors at the tasting room, we leaned heavily on e-commerce. And so now the challenge, of course, is what we saw with the data, is how do we maintain that pace that we had in the early pandemic? I think we all probably could agree that the frequency of communication from brands across industries just increased. They just picked it up, and our inboxes are flooded all the time. We did the same thing, where we may pre-pandemic have sent out 1 to 2 emails a week. We're now sending communications almost daily. Now, we're not sending everyone a communication every single day, but what we have really honed in on is we can be sending emails every single day. And Group A, they're gonna get a message about maybe this library reserve that we're releasing because we know that they're those buyers. But Group C over here, they're new. They just visited the winery. Let's make sure that they know about our portfolio, and let's give them a first-time online conversion promotion. So we're doing a lot of that. We have not pulled back the frequency of communication now that we are seeing people back in the tasting room. And we've actually found that people are really receptive to it. We haven't seen an increase in unsubscribes. Our click rates have actually increased. We are A/B testing our promotions all the time. So if you're not doing that, do that, because what's gonna motivate my audience may not motivate your audience to buy. And you will learn so much about your audience, and then you can effectively segment. You know that this audience, all they're ever gonna do is buy when you have shipping offers. So that's what you wanna send them. But this audience over here might not be motivated by offers, and they're gonna be motivated by something exclusive. So we're doing a lot of that as far as the email space. Now, another thing that we're doing, it's not necessarily e-commerce, but we did onboard, again, you heard this in another session, not a paid promotion. We did onboard with RedChirp about a year ago with texting, and I can say that it has single-handedly transformed the way that we do our DTC business. Yes, it has incrementally helped us grow our sales. We are now reaching people and breaking through the clutter of email. People that we hadn't gotten to respond to things in years are suddenly actively engaging with us again. So that's been really great. We give people first access to really popular wines that we know sell out every year. You get the first access to them if you're on our text list. And all you have to do is text us a keyword and your order's on its way to you. Easy breezy, you're back in your meeting. We also do things like early access to events, so wine club events that are complimentary that fill up so fast. If you're on our text list, you get a full day ahead of the rest of the wine club to RSVP to those events because those fill up super fast. So texting has been great as far as sales, but it's also been really great for club retention. And for getting to John's point, we are seeing more declined credit cards. We're seeing more skips and holds. So we're proactively not just emailing people now, but we're texting them, hey, did you know that your card on file is expired? We're processing your club in 2 weeks. Let's get that updated for you. And we have seen an increase in response and an increase in cards that we've been able to update by getting them in multiple streams of communication. So those people are still getting the email, but they're also getting the text. And so that has been single-handedly one of the most effective things that we've done in the last year. And it's a process to get everybody on board, and people can be really scared that it's gonna add a lot more work. But all I can say is that it has actually made everything so much easier. And we have seen a really great response in meeting our customers where they're at.
That's awesome. Cuvée-san in the house. They actually rolled out Red Chirp, and they did a text blast for all their people who had declined credit cards when they were doing a club run. And within, I can't remember what the actual number was, but it was within, like, say, 5 minutes, 61 people had clicked on it, went to their portal on the website and updated their credit cards. That's 61 calls you didn't have to make. Red Chirp will send me some money in the mail, I'm sure, for
Yes,
plugging that
they
note.
will. And with that, not only directing them to your website, because then maybe people forget their password and they can't figure out how to log in. Red Chirp has a secure link that you can send to your customer. That's a form, it's a payment form that they fill out. It is secure, it's PCI compliant. That comes straight to you. You put that card information in your system, and all they had to do was click the link and fill out the form. And then they can use their Apple Wallet or their Google Wallet, fills in the card for them, super easy. So again, it's reducing a barrier. They don't even have to log in. And then you on the back end are just getting that card information. So that's been great.
Right. So efficiencies, really reaching out, making sure that you're meeting people where they want to be met in terms of what kind of communication that they want. Walter, you also had mentioned doing some things with segmenting your marketing email. Can you speak to that for us?
It's kind of the same thing that Haley talked about, just paying attention to what members like and what they'd like to buy, their buying patterns. Are they local? Are they ship-tos from way out of state? Patricia does a great job, our marketing director does a great job of making sure that we know who is where and what they like to buy. Then we market to them specific wines or wines that are going out of stock or libraried, or, hey, if you're coming in town, we see it's that time of year, we usually travel back in town, here's a wine club member for a day for your friends if you want to bring some people out. So just trying to make sure we're paying attention to who's where and what they like to buy, when they like to visit. Even working through, after doing with Chris, the virtuals, working on some of the virtuals now, bringing some of that back for people that are out of state or not necessarily local.
Great, yeah. There is a lot to be said about virtual experiences. I know we leaned into it early in the pandemic, but people who didn't take their foot off that gas are seeing still a lot of returns on that. So if you put it aside, I would highly recommend thinking about it because it's a great way to build revenue as well. Okay, so we can't reach people where they want to be reached unless we're asking them. We can't reach out to them if we're not collecting that contact data. So let's talk about contact data. I'll start with you, Haley. How are you collecting contact data? Wait, before I get to you, when you think about your club members, do you know which one of them always reads their email and which of the partner is the one doing all the planning? Which one is going to be more likely to RSVP for an event versus who's not? Somewhat, right? But what if we were asking them when they came in, all right, which one of you opens your email? Okay, which one of you is the one that's gonna, wants to know about the events? Because if we're asking them and putting those notes in our POS system, then we can really communicate to each of them the way they want to be communicated to, instead of just assuming the person who signs up is the one that's going to open up those emails or the person that's going to RSVP for the events. So when we think about collecting contact data for every single person, we're thinking about finding ways that is going to be relevant to each person and giving them a reason why. So with club members, that's an easy reason why. Why would I want you to have both my and my partner's email or phone? Because we want to be able to reach whoever's the appropriate person for the right things. All right, get off my soapbox.
No, that's perfect. That was actually something I was going to mention, so there we go. So you mentioned earlier a huge problem that we're seeing is the assumption, now that we're just getting everybody's data, we have to make reservations. We're 100% data capture. And what we're actually finding is a party of 4 comes in, and we're getting 1 persons of 4. That's not a great rate. I think it's actually even lower than that, but I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt. So the first thing that we did was we actually shared that, because the tasting room, they didn't know. That's just not what our wine educators are not thinking about that. They're thinking about who they have in front of them and how they can convert the sale. So the first thing we did was we just pulled up the data and we shared really transparently, this is how much data we are actually capturing, and these are how many people are coming through the door. And here's the disconnect in that. So sharing the data, full transparency, really helpful for us. The next thing, and this is such a hot topic, I know people hate them, but QR codes. So we have implemented QR codes, I just talked about Red Chirp, to allow people to sign up for Red Chirp. We're trying to give our wine educators tools. They have so much to talk about in a 45 to 60-minute tasting. Some tools that they can pitch it, and then the person can go discover it for themselves. And also give them tools, a why. Sign up for texting and get X today, something that benefits the consumer. But we also are bringing back the old school join our mailing list cards, because what we're finding is not everyone loves a QR code. So we had done away with those with the pandemic, and we actually had a request from the tasting room to bring them back. So we listened, and we are bringing them back to motivate people to fill out those cards that maybe don't want to do the QR code. And I know we're short on time, but lastly, when people come in with a club member, often they want to buy under the club member account because they are going to get the club members discount. What we're actually encouraging now is fill out this member for a day card, and then you will get the club member discount. It's letting us do 2 things. 1, we're now capturing that data. 2, we're keeping the club member's account pure. Because if I really love white wines and I was Walter's guest under his club membership, now there's white wines on Walter's account when he only drinks reds, and we're starting to target him with white wine marketing. And we're finding that that is making the unsubscribe rate go up. So that's been super helpful. And then we can actually target the people that filled out those cards for club member for a day and got the discount, and follow up with them and see if they want to join the club.
One thing we know from working with a lot of wineries, if you only have one way to capture contact data, you have one way to succeed. Try and have more than one way of collecting contact data, because if it doesn't work for your tasting room staff, it's not going to work at all. So multiple ways. If you have a QR code or a fill in a card or anything, make sure the staff is actually calling out to it and mentioning it and inviting. People love to be invited. Invite them, but give them a reason. Give them a reason, a benefit that would be in it for them. Did you?
No.
Okay.
I do. From a server or a wine educating standpoint, to try to help them, give them some more ammunition, some of the things we do is we're selling tickets to an event. If the person mentions their name or writes their name on the ticket, then they get some sort of prize, and then allowing your staff to come to the event or holding a special event for them. If we're going to partner with a chef, we try to have the chef come out and cook the staff food, and we do the pairings with them. They're a little bit more inclined to sell those events and talk about the events if they've had a personal experience with those events. So just another idea.
Great. All right, I'm going to ask my panelists. If there was one key takeaway that you would like everybody who's listening in today to consider or think differently about, what would that be in terms of driving revenue for DTC?
All right. So one thing I touched on in the very beginning with one of my roles, but I haven't elaborated on yet, is picking up the phone. So I talked about it in the onboarding process, but one thing that we find specifically in our business is that people want to hear from us, and we can't be afraid to pick up the phone and call them. These are not cold leads. These are hot leads. These are people that love your wine and love your winery. And you'll quickly learn the people that don't want to talk to you on the phone, and that's great. They'll open your emails or they'll open your text messages. But there are so many people that are so happy to hear from their favorite people at our winery, and they will only pick up the phone. And they'll email us and say, please call me. And so then I forward it to the person who oversees them, and they call them. So I will say a fun fact is, without sharing too much, is I have 3 outbound sales associates. That's all they do is outbound sales all day. And there is one gal who's been with us for 8 years, and the only clerk in the company that outperforms her is our auto batch of the wine club. So she single-handedly sells more wine for our company than anyone in the tasting room. But if you don't have the resources to hire an outbound team and it's slower in the tasting room right now, you will be surprised at the people in your tasting room that will do great on the phones. That's how we started before we had an outbound team, was we had the wine educators, small lists, really targeted promotions to set them up for success, to not be overwhelming. But when they were reaching out to people that they had hosted in the tasting room, they were so happy to hear from them. So if I can say anything, it's pick up the phone.
That's awesome. I hear that a lot, that it's telemarketing, or it's icky, but it's so not. Walter?
I think my one takeaway would be ask the questions to your members, to the guests, to the people that are coming in. I know we're trying to capture the data, but find out people that are already fans of your brand, of your product, find out what they want. Listen to what they have to say. It's amazing, the little things that they want, small things. I don't want to use a wine club glass. I don't like that glass. Sure, no problem, you can have that. Just pay attention to what they're saying. I think the feedback, getting feedback is one thing, paying attention to it and reacting and doing something with it is a whole nother thing. I think that's something that's important.
Thanks. All right, John?
So I was going to say some phone stuff, but Haley said it way better than I could have. I guess in this era of how do we grow without the traffic, it comes down to, what can we control and what can we focus on. I think Steve Jobs taught us that focus is about saying no. What are we not going to work on? And so I think a lot of us have smaller operations, and we don't maybe have 3 full-time outbound phone reps. And so we have to find the 2 things that we're really going to focus on for the upcoming 90 days. And so I guess I would just close with to say that I really think it's about kind of some of the basic blocking and tackling of goal setting with a business. And one of my favorite quotes is that, and it's from Zig Ziglar, and he says that a goal properly set is already 50% achieved. And so that's what I would send everyone off here is what can we focus on? Not everything. Can we pick a couple of the things that are going to move the needle the most? And can we work hard to try and set and track goals with our team? And those are things that we can do across any of the channels or metrics, et cetera, that we've discussed today. And every winery is going to have a little bit of different equation, but putting forth some intention in that direction, I think, would go a long way.
All right, thank you. We are running out of time. I'll try and do a couple of quick questions. All right, this one's probably going to be for you, Walter. Maybe, Haley, you have some insights. Do we find that our new tableside service model for most in the industry is creating a traffic shift? There's no more belly up to the bar, and reservations are required. What are you seeing from that?
At both our wineries, we still offer both. We offer traditional belly to the bar tastings and reservations. It's a lot. And there was a point in time that tableside reservations were hands down creating a higher ticket per ticket per person. Now we're kind of seeing that come down a little bit, and people are enjoying going back to the bar.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Anything to add? Yeah, I mean, most of the time we're seeing higher average order value, more conversion rates when you have that seated experience. Yes, there are going to be fewer people coming to your winery, but it should be that you're getting more from the people that are coming. So hopefully that answers the question the way it was written. John?
I don't have your face ID.
All right, one more question, and then we got to get off the stage for Paul and guest. Let's see. For phone calls, does your data skew towards older customers? Younger customers tend to be adverse to phone calls.
So I know that that's the perception, and that may overall be true. However, no, we do not find that it's one specific guest, one specific type of guest that prefers the phone call. We have, 20-year-olds that 20 in their 20s, not 20. To be very clear, that sometimes I'm entering their date of birth and I can't believe that they can actually even buy wine, that are picking up the phone. And I think it's because they feel important. I am calling them, not me specifically, but we are calling them and giving them that one-on-one attention. And so no, to answer the question, if you're gonna start, don't just pigeonhole yourself into one demographic.
Great. They're gonna get a crowbar and get us off of here. Last one, okay. Does your reduced hours due to lack of staffing affect your traffic numbers? Any recommendations?
No, I can't answer that question, I don't think, because we haven't reduced our hours. We've maintained our open hours. We may at times have had to decrease the amount of people that we can see, and that changes on a day-to-day basis because we do also still try to accommodate walk-ins, but I don't have a specific
Same.
answer for that.
Same.
Okay. All right, well, thank you all very much for your time. Thank my panelists very much for your expertise, and go forth and sell wine.